When was the last time that you heard a half-truth? I feel like almost every day I hear a half-truth. I have two boys that are always very excited to share with me what they did during their day. When I come home, my oldest might come to me and say, "Dad, we wrestled today," and be super excited about it. And then I go and I talk to his younger brother, and his younger brother says, "Dad, we wrestled today, but Levi punched me in the face." So why do people share half-truths? There's probably a lot of different reasons for half-truths, but there's two that I want you to focus in on today. One reason is that people want to manipulate the truth. The second reason is that people may not always know the whole truth. As we continue with our missionary journey today, we see that Paul and Silas move on to a city called Thessalonica. And when they get to Thessalonica, they have a tremendous amount of success. When they share the gospel, a number of people come to faith. But with that success also comes persecution. We see that people become upset with them. And as a result of becoming so upset, they go and they search for them to drag them out of where they're staying. We read, "But when they did not find them, they dragged Jason and some other brothers before the city officials, shouting, 'These men who have caused trouble all over the world have now come here. And Jason has welcomed them into his house. They are all defying Caesar's decrees, saying that there is another king, one called Jesus.'" You see the half-truths that are shared about Paul and Silas. They hadn't really been to the whole world. Yeah, they had been traveling and trying to get to as many places as they can. They portray it as if Paul and Silas were going to places, trying to cause trouble and trying to cause these riots to take place. It's true that when they went to places, many times as a result of sharing the gospel, people became upset, but that was not their intent. They also tried to make it seem as if Jesus was trying to take power away from Caesar. Yes, Jesus really is a king, but he had no intent of ever taking earthly power away from any earthly ruler. So why did they share these half-truths? The Bible tells us. But the Jews were jealous, so they rounded up some bad characters from the marketplace, formed a mob, and started a riot in the city. The jealousy that the Jews have is a deep jealousy. They are jealous with the results that Paul and Silas have had, but they are also jealous for their God. They feel that Paul and Silas are not sharing the truth. They don't think that Jesus is God. They don't think that he is the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecies. That's exactly what Paul and Silas did on their missionary journeys. They went and they tried to share with the Jewish people that Jesus is the fulfillment of all of these Old Testament scriptures that you know so well. Paul and Silas were not content to leave the Jewish people with half-truths. In our own lives, we find people that have half-truths about Christianity. It's so easy to shy away from sharing that simple gospel message with them out of the fear of what might happen. We may think that they'll laugh at us, that they'll think that we're foolish. We think that they might not want to be our friends anymore. But the message itself is simple. People need to hear that Jesus Christ came for sins once for all, the righteous one for the unrighteous, to bring all people to God. Paul and Silas continued on their missionary journey, and later on, the Apostle Paul would write a letter to the church in Thessalonica, and he would share and remind them what had happened. We read from 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, beginning with the first verse. "You know, brothers and sisters, that our visit to you was not a failure. We had previously suffered and been insulted in Philippi, as you know. But with the help of our God, we dared to tell you his gospel in spite of strong opposition. For the appeal we make does not spring from error or impure motives, nor are we trying to trick you. On the contrary, we speak as men approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel. We are not trying to please people, but God who tests our heart. This is the motivation that we want to have. Not to care about what people think, but instead to want to share that gospel because God has told us to do so. In our world today, so many people only know half of Jesus and half of this gospel. They don't really know this message. And that's why it's so important that we share with them exactly what the whole truth is, what God has revealed to us about himself in his holy word. And in doing that, we know that the Holy Spirit works in people's hearts to bring them to faith.